Hello everyone, I'm Ernie and I'm so glad you're here with us today. Today we are on the west side of Dayton, Nevada, and we're going to learn about the water projects that they've had here back in the day. And if you look behind me, you can see that hole in the ground with the trees growing in it. From as late as the 1970s, that used to be the Daytonites' water reservoir where they would get their water to drink from. But we're going to get in the history of the water of this place, and so let's get going. Just on the other side of those trees and in between those two hills at the mouth of Gold Canyon, Abner Blackburn discovered Nevada's first gold back in 1849. The historic Gold Creek begins above Virginia City and runs into the Carson River at Dayton, and it historically goes dry during the summer. This history began in August of 1857, where 50 to 150 Chinese laborers were hired and brought to Dayton to dig a water ditch. The water ditch was called the Chinese Ditch, and it has also been called Rose's Ditch for Edward Rose, who had the ditch dug. Because the water would dry up in the summertime in Gold Creek and Gold Canyon, it was necessary for the placer miners to find a way to get water into the canyon so they could continue to mine for gold. So in August of 1857, Edward Rose had the plan to dig a ditch from the Carson River to Gold Canyon, which was 4 miles apart in distance. So the ditch was hand dug by the Chinese to transport water from the Carson River to the mouth of Gold Canyon and to dig a reservoir to store the water. Incredibly, the river water stored in this reservoir was piped to Dayton homes until a new water system was installed in the 1970s. Until then, if you didn't have a well, water from the river was the residents' only choice. The river was often low, and it wasn't unusual for green algae and polywogs to slip through the pipe and into someone's drinking water. When you drive on Highway 50 between our park and the bottom of Dayton Hill, indications of a long excavation site are visible on the north side of the highway. The river is on the south side. The site resembles a roadway, yet besides Gold Canyon, this old ditch is undoubtedly the most historical site in Nevada. As we view the Chinese ditch, we are going to start backwards and then work towards the beginning of the ditch. And you can see where the ditch had ended. This area is now private property, but the ditch ran across this field, across the street, and into the reservoir. Here is the view of the hand-stacked wall for the Birdsall and Carpenter Mill, and the Chinese ditch just sat on the north side of this wall. Here is the end of the Chinese ditch as it stands today. Here stood the Birdsall and Carpenter Mill. You can see the remnant of some hardware that they used for the spillway for the water that they received from the Chinese ditch. Here is where we believe Civil War veteran Charlie Norris's dugout home was. The Chinese ditch was just above his dugout home. A side note, in 1901 and 1902, Charlie Norris was Dayton's Justice of the Peace. Here is the end of the Chinese ditch on the north side of Highway 50. You can see that the diggings continue across Highway 50 towards the south and towards the Carson River. In today's standard of work, this project would be tremendous, but back in 1857 it was historic, it was a major project, and it brought life to the town of Dayton. Well, this concludes this episode of the Chinese Ditch. It sure did look like a lot of work to me. I'm using picks and shovels and making this ditch so that businesses could run and people would have water to drink. And so anyhow, it was successful, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you did, I encourage you to smash that like button and to share this episode on your channel, because there's somebody out in this world that will catch on to it and enjoy the history of the Chinese ditch here in Dayton, Nevada. And also, if you haven't subscribed to our channel, I want to encourage you to subscribe and become part of our AU family. We love to have you as a family member, and we can converse and do projects together. And so I'm glad you're here, and we'll see you on the next one.